Hello, I'm Shane Schultz from Serenely Speaking, and this is the Arisen Strength Recap Show. Folks, we do this show because we feel there are far too many dreams, talents, and capabilities that are being suppressed for whatever reason. Whether it be injury, illness, or life experiences, these situations have a way of finding us being robbed of what it is that makes us special and unique in this world, our passions. Here at Arisen Strength, we encourage people to pursue their passions in spite of the challenge they face. Now, how we do that is with our three-pillar concept. Number one, we support. Number two, we empower. And after all that work, number three, we have the right to celebrate. Folks, that's the Arisen Strength concept. Our goal is to help bring back the passions of life to you again. Tonight, we're going to be going over some of the more memorable moments of episode 19, how it works in reality, as well as to give a short preview of what is to come this Sunday night on episode 20 when we talk about Lyme disease. But before we do that, let me go ahead and introduce my good friend, Wayne the Hack Hacker. Wayne, it's great to have you here tonight.
Thanks a lot for having me, Shane. What a week we've been having. What a last couple weeks. 2 weeks ago we did the How It Works in Reality. We wanted to take a show where we talked about how we use Arisen Strength, the pillars and the foundations of Arisen Strength in our daily lives. How we have to rely on support, empower, celebrate.
Right.
How we use the foundations. Self-esteem, which when we talk about self-esteem, we include accountability.
Right. Valuing oneself.
And valuing
taking
yourself.
ownership.
Taking ownership.
Yeah.
So it's not just self-esteem that I feel good about myself. It's self-esteem that I'm somebody important.
Right.
And part of being important is actually being accountable and taking ownership. Acceptance. We had to do a lot of acceptance in the last week.
Yeah.
Certainly we had a lot of acceptance in the episode 19 because we had some stuff going on in our lives. This last week, my computer's not been cooperating. We're doing something completely different right now, and we're going to be doing something completely different here in the future. Going to use Camtasia, I think. It's going to allow us to, really get a better product, I think, or hopefully. We've got some issues going on that I just could not get around.
Well, the thing is it really does emphasize the freedom of acceptance, because it seems like in our biggest adversities that we've had when it comes to our technical issues, we've also come out on top to where we were better than what we were before. And that really is what Arisen Strength is all about. So it kind of fits with the freedom of acceptance. Here, we accept the fact that whatever was going on, it wasn't working out well for us. And so we decided to go ahead and change software and be able to use a system that seems to be much easier to work with, especially as a producer like yourself. And it also seems to be given a higher quality. So, that's really the emphasis of freedom of acceptance is that it's not about submitting. It's not about, dealing with it. It's about accepting it and then moving forward and taking everything that you can and making that day better than what it was the day before and the day before that.
And I think when we started using the Microsoft Movie Maker is what we started with.
Yeah.
I think in the back of our minds, because we even talked about it, so probably in the front of our minds, we were going to probably be moving to Camtasia eventually.
Right.
But Camtasia is a step up. Movie Maker was a good learning ground.
Right.
You can't do multiple layers of different media. Essentially, in Movie Maker, you have 3 layers. You have one layer that's text layer. And that's it. You have one layer of audio, and you have one layer of video.
Right.
And you can't mix and match your layers too well. You can't, and the layers just really make it a lot easier. We have to do a lot of pre-planning how we're going to film it in order to be able to use Windows Movie Maker. With Camtasia, we have multiple layers of things. We're actually recording this show. It's our easiest recording. As far as making the recording,
yeah.
the easiest thing, and I think the editing is going to come out pretty well for it too. So I'm really looking forward to what we can do. We're still going to be using Movie Maker for some things.
Yeah.
Again, using the two tools in tandem. I think we're going to get the best product out there that we can. But we can, at least for my sanity, I needed to do something.
Well, I mean, look at what we started. We started out with Google Hangout, and it was a live show, and we were pretty much at the bay as to what was going to happen because of the Google Hangout. It really worked out well for us to get us started. Didn't realize as to how many resources it was taking out of what it is that we were doing, and we realized that in probably one of our biggest adversities that we had, and we got on top. We started using Movie Maker. We started using a different software called Manycam, and we got on top, and we improved the show in a great deal. Now we ended up getting hit, into another wall, and instead of making it a wall that's not able to be climbed, we accepted the fact that we hit the wall, and then we moved on to something else. Again, it's freedom of acceptance. It's really taking the concept and utilizing it in your everyday life, and that's what we do.
Learn, improve, share.
Yeah.
We talk about that, and that's what this is. We had to learn Google Hangouts.
Yeah.
And we figured it out. And we got it to work a little bit, but it wasn't quite meeting our needs. But we learned a lot doing it. And then when we stepped it up to Manycam and using Windows Movie Maker, we learned a lot about those applications.
Sure.
But again, not quite what we wanted. But it's not like we're abandoning what we've learned. I mean, we're adding and adding and adding and adding, and I think it's really starting to turn into a product that we can really. I mean, I'm just amazed when we look at from day one to now.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and again, just as amazing as it is from us going from one thing to another thing to another thing to now, it's the same thing in somebody's life. As you start utilizing the concepts of Arisen Strength, as you start utilizing the concepts of valuing yourself, of taking ownership, of the freedom of acceptance, of being able to use the power of turning the thought, along with support, empowerment, and celebration, this actually is what it is. It's a progression where you mature for yourself to valuing yourself. I'm not talking about maturity as in you're a young kid and you're going to an adulthood. No, I'm talking about you are learning again, but I'm talking about how you're maturing and valuing yourself, and that automatically gives you the power to be able to change things around to make your life better. We talked about in a couple of interviews that I've done, talk about categorizing the people that are around me. It's like there are certain people that are good to be funny with, to have jokes with and stuff. There are other people to go around and who I might consider wisdom like. They have experiences that I can learn from, and they have their ways of doing things that I can learn from. I utilize them. There's some that I have that are very supportive. But in some cases, not one of those individuals can do all three of those things. So with that being the case, I categorize things, and I take it for what it is. I accept that the person that's funny and jokes around a lot, he's not going to be the one that I'm going to use for support, because he's always going to be joking around about it, right? So, the guy with the wisdom and stuff like that, maybe he's not the joking around type. It's just one of those things. So we realize what it is that we accept, and we take it and we move on, and we mature in our progression of health and value.
And that's a real important point about your supports, is widen your support base. Yeah. Don't get all your support from one person. That is a recipe for disaster. That person may not be available to you at the most crucial moment you need them if you only have one person in your support network. Yeah. That's not even a support network. That's a support crutch. Yeah. You need an entire support network so that if the first person is not there, the next person's there, the next person's there, but also because of specialties. I need a funny person now.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got a wide support network, you can get to the funny person. I need a serious person. I need somebody who's going to tell me straight. So having that wide support base is really, really important.
Well, that's like with me, I'm a life coach. And so when I'm working with somebody and everything like that, the first thing that I tell them is, hey, you want to get to the point as to where you're making your life worth valuing, because in a lot of people that I talk with, they don't feel that it's a value. They feel that it's okay to just be the way that they are, and it's the way that it is, and that's the way it is. What I try to do is I try to tell people, it's like, look, you need to get out. You need to get new friends. You need to get new hobbies. You need to get and do things so that you can start valuing your life the way that you want to value it. It's yours. It's nobody else's. A lot of people go ahead and they live their lives as if it's something that they have to do. You don't. You don't have to do anything based off of anybody else's, preconceived needs or whatever. It's yours. So, do with it what that you can to the most.
Yeah, what ends up happening if you're not careful, you fall into that pattern of just existing. Right. I'm not doing anything with my life. I have no direction. I have no purpose. I'm just existing. And especially for those of us that have come out with a history of addiction, and we learn about the difference between being abstinent and being living a sober life, is that you have to move that transition. You have to transition at some point from just not, in my case, drinking, just from not drinking to actually living a life where just drinking is not part of my life, but I have to live my life. And that just goes even if you don't have an addiction problem. But in your life, it's good to ask that question once in a while. Am I existing or am I actually living?
Well, you talk about addiction. I tell my story about jumping out of a fully functioning airplane because I wanted to, not because I had to. The thing is that when you're talking about my addiction, that was 90% of my life. I ate it, I drank it, I slept it. It didn't matter. So it was one of those things. And my addiction was gambling. I can gamble anywhere, right, in the world. And I had that capability to do that. And so there's a game on any hour of the day, and so it was one of those things. If I wasn't thinking it, I certainly was doing it. And if I wasn't doing it, I certainly was getting prepared to do it, and that was one of those things. So when it came to taking that away, if I didn't replace that, I've got a huge gaping void there. I've got a huge gaping hole. And so, it just so happened that as I was in my recovery, I was starting to get pretty strong in the beginning of it. And I happened to have an opportunity in order to jump out of an airplane. Now, I wasn't really thinking about it. It kind of happened, and it kind of was, kind of surprise. And at first, to be honest with you, I said no, because I had no interest of jumping out of an airplane. Except for the fact I started to think about it, and I actually did have a thought, as to where it's a life experience. It's one of those things as to where I can look upon it when I'm older, and I can say, I did that, And so when I found out what it is that I was saying to myself, I realized that I was valuing what it is that I was trying to build for myself. I was trying to build my own book. We talked about a book. It's like if you continue to go through the same book, you already know what the pages are all about. You're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get anything different. I don't say turn the page. I don't say change the page. I say get a different book. Make your life the best that you can make it for you, not for anybody else.
Yeah, make your life a story worth telling.
Yeah.
Live life with purpose. It's these little things that we say, and that's what it's learn, improve, share. It's about moving forward. There's motion here. It's not about being stuck. And that when you kind of accept that and you sort of realize that's empowerment right there, right? Because you're doing things. That's really the definition of empowerment, right? When you're empowered, you do things. So if you're doing things, then you are empowered, and that's right there. One of our pillars: support, empower. And
that's my favorite. To be honest with you, the thing is that you're looking at it from the standpoint you are trying to build something, right? So you need the foundation. Look, folks, the things that we say, I guarantee you there's somebody out there that says something very similar, if not the exact same thing. The only thing that we're doing is that we put a concept behind it. We put some content that's behind it. It's not just a bumper sticker. You know, this is what we actually utilize in our own daily lives, and that's what episode 19 was about. Was the fact that we had a number of things that were going on, anywheres from I lost my job to we both lost a dear friend. Then you had found out that your ex-wife had leukemia. You know, we had a number of other things that were going on too that we didn't even mention. It was like an avalanche that was coming through. And, you know, the thing is that we could have said, you know what, we were stressed, and to the point as to where then all of a sudden I just said, you know what, this would be a great opportunity to be able to show people how we utilize Arisen Strength in our daily lives. Because sometimes, you know, people put on shows that they don't necessarily do, you know, and I didn't want to be like that. So we're very transparent here. We utilize support, empower, and celebrate. Wayne and I, when it comes to the show, what do we say after a show? We say good show, right?
Yeah.
And we have ice cream or pudding or something to basically ritualize it. And, you know, and if we don't do that, you know, we definitely support one another, you know, where if I'm having a rough day or whatever the case may be, Wayne takes over and he does his thing, or vice versa. You know, and when it comes to celebration, hey, we've been celebrating a lot when it comes to this show. You know what I mean? We really are proud of what it is that we've put out here to be able to help others like ourselves, because we are more alike than what we are different. And, you know, and to be able to do that, that's a celebration in itself.
Yeah, we talked at the beginning here about support, and then we get a little bit of empower, and celebrate is one of those things. I've got a couple little celebration stories that I'd like to share. One is a kind of a quick update with my ex-wife Linda. You know, she's going through her chemotherapy. Well, it's really improved the situation. The chemo she does is actually a series of shots.
Right.
She gets 5 shots a day for 5 days. So it's, you know, her arm's a little sore, or wherever part of her body is getting the shots. And then a month later, she'll repeat the process. And I was able to see her in the middle of that. She lives about 250 miles away. In the middle of this, she took a vacation and kind of drove through town on her way for her weekend away, and we stopped. She stopped off. We had some lunch. She was looking good, you know, very, very happy, very healthy. You know, you wouldn't think she was in the middle of chemo, and it was, you know, but taking that moment to, you know, just really, you know, celebrate. You know, it's you know, not everything has to be a crisis, right? You know. Yes, getting leukemia, and this was actually the 3rd time she's gotten it. Right, it's come back twice. It started 13 years ago. 6 years later, it came back, and now 7 years after that, it came back again. This is a serious event. Let's not call it a crisis. You know, let's, you know, a challenge. You know, and we can face challenges. And the beautiful thing about challenges is if you rise to the challenge, it becomes an opportunity for growth. It becomes an opportunity. In this case, it was an opportunity for celebration. I hadn't seen my ex-wife in a while. It's been a little over a year and a half, and, you know, she maybe even longer. But we've it was a chance to sort of catch up, and so we turned it into you know, a chance for celebration. And again, right there, one of the pillars. My other celebration thing is just to remind people how important celebrations are. It's clean time for an addict. For myself, is I try to make my clean time not a burden. For a lot of people who are addicts, I know because I've been in groups with them, I've been in rooms with them, is their clean time becomes a burden. It's a weight they carry. It comes up on 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. It happens to all of us. You know, maybe not every single person, but most people who've been through recovery, they start feeling that burden of clean time. One day at a time is an opportunity to celebrate every single day. It's a chance every single day to commit yourself to your recovery, but it's also a chance every single day to celebrate the fact that I didn't drink yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, I have 1,624 days.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
You know,
that's just awesome.
That's coming up on 2,000 different celebrations. You know,
Awesome.
you know,
Yeah.
by doing it every day, I give myself these little celebrations, and I give me the little reminders that I am on the right path. The celebrations give me the strength to, you know what, if today gets really, really bad and I feel like drinking, or if I just maybe get unusually distracted and maybe feel like drinking, I'll tell you, I go down by that river sometimes on a nice sunny day.
Yeah.
People sitting outside.
Yeah.
I can see the pictures of beer off in the distance. You know, you know, and my mind does go, you know, huh? Just for a moment,
Yeah.
just for a moment. You know, I gotta be honest here. My adventures of drinking, my experiences of drinking, were not all bad. I'm not going to sit here and say that,
No.
you know, every time I went out drinking, it was the worst time of my life. It was some of the best times of my life. I mean, it was a great, but it's also something I know I can't
Just
do.
wasn't healthy.
You know, there was, I can't control it.
Yeah.
You know, I see that. You know, I could easily see myself walking by there, going like, if I went over there, I could be there 10 hours from now.
Yeah.
I could be there, and, you know, drink the rest of the night until they kick me out. Because I've done that. I've gone to places for lunch, and they close down at 2, and, you know, you got to go. You know, that happens. You know, that happens to me. So I can't do that. You know, I have to stay away. You know, and I don't want to look like I'm laughing and making fun of it, because I want to be honest. You know, I had some good times drinking, but the trouble that came from drinking, the problems, far outweighed
Sure.
the good times. I mean, the good times may have outnumbered the bad times, but the bad times outweighed, and that was something I had to really, really settle in and really, really accept, and that's not easy. But I got daily celebration, so that, you know.
Well, it's a ritual. You know what I mean? It's like you're reinforcing it, and that's what's important, is that you're reinforcing the right thing. You know, there are some people out there that are having a very difficult time right now, whether it be suicidal thoughts, whether it be self-harm or whatever, and they just automatically assume that if they went ahead and they, like, say for instance, a cutter cuts themselves, well, they automatically think that they failed. Not necessarily, you know, because what is it that you were doing to stop from cutting yourself? Well, you try to distract yourself. You try to do this. You try to do that. You tried to read. You try to write a journal. You tried doing this. And it's like, the first thing that they'll say is I failed because I cut myself. And the first thing that I'll tell them is, you did a whole lot right.
Right.
You know, I mean, you, and not only that, you know, or a suicidal person, you know, it's like, you did a lot of successes because you're still here. You know, and they're just like, what? You know what I mean? Wait a minute. I expected you to yell at me. I expected you to, you know, to make me feel like I did something wrong. And they get totally confused when I say, no, you did a whole lot right, and we just need to work on it a little bit more.
Yeah, but those foundations to work. You know, you got some self-esteem. You know, you're building up clean every day you don't use. That's self-esteem in the bank right there, that you can go back and look at and say, you know what, I did that. You can't take that away from me. I did that.
Yeah.
And, you know, it leads up to acceptance, where you can start accepting that you can change. You know,
Right.
you know, there was a time maybe where I thought, you know, well, this is just what I'll do. I'll just drink every day the rest of my life. I mean, I couldn't imagine that it would be any different. Why would it be any different? And I had to accept that, you know, there is something different for me. There's something more for me, something better for me. And then that opens up the door for turn the thought.
Right.
Because, you know, when you get stuck in a lifestyle, whatever that lifestyle is, whatever, you know, and it can be injury, illness, life experience, you find yourself in an environment where you're not doing anything different. You're going cycling through the same old ideas. You're trying the same old things, and you're not getting any new results. And, you know, that's that red flag. You know, I've tried everything and nothing works. That's a red flag, because something does work. You just haven't figured out what it is yet. You need to turn your thought. You have to be open to help. You have to be open to doing things differently. And we've heard many stories about people doing things differently.
Yeah, and you're limiting yourself to your success.
Because one thing that I used to do I used to say, look, I've done everything. And I did. I did a whole lot of things, whether it be my gambling or whether it be my depression or my PTSD. I did a whole lot of things that I thought was trying to get better. The thing is that there's an old saying that your higher power will never give you anything more than what you can handle. I used to say, well, I've been saying when for a number of years now, right? Well, the thing is that what I now have come to the conclusion is I was shortchanging myself. It wasn't that I couldn't handle anymore. It was the fact that I was believing that I couldn't handle anymore. I was thinking, I was feeling like I couldn't handle anymore. And that validation started coming into play as to where I had to make sure that you knew I couldn't handle anymore. When it came to the fact is that obviously I could, because I survived a number of suicide attempts, right? I survived my addiction. I survived my depression. I survived my PTSD. You know, the thing is that I shortchanged myself. And so in shortchanging myself, I realized that, well, if I shortchange myself, that means I can do more. And that was after having a clear head. That was having the right frame of mind. That was having the right thoughts that were going through it. And it wasn't and people are like, well, what'd you do? Just snap your fingers and that just happened? No, it was a process. Believe me.
It's still a process.
Wayne's watched the process personally. And, you know, I mean, and the thing is that it's once you start feeling like you're going back into your cycle, you got to stop it. You got to break it down right then and there. That's it. Look, I'm in control, not you. And, you know, and if you can't do it, get somebody who can help you do it, whether it be a therapist, whether it be a doctor, whether it be a good friend of yours, somebody who you trust, you know, somebody who's not going to sit there and enable you to be who it is that you are when you're sitting there and feeling the worst that you've ever felt. That just doesn't make any sense. I mean, if somebody cares for you, then they wouldn't put that. It drives me crazy as to where there are some people that are out there who believe that they're helping somebody, yet they're just allowing that person to be the worst that they've ever felt in their life. And it's not because they mean to, it's because they love the person. And they actually care for that person as much as they possibly can, and they're trying to do the best that they can, not realizing that it's the worst. It's the detrimental part.
Well, they're cheering you on as you dig faster in the hole that you're in.
Which is water on a grease fire. Now,
they think they're helping. Yeah. And, you know, and you know, we have it on both sides. You know, I think, you know, if we're going to be helping other people, we have to take that time to say, you know, are we doing the right thing here? I mean, are we throwing water on a grease fire? And likewise, if we're reaching out for help, we want to make sure that we're not picking up enablers who are not really, and it's through no fault of their own. I mean, if people, you know, genuinely want to help, they just don't know how in a lot of cases. Oh, sorry, had a little bit of a swallow. But also, when you're supporting somebody or you're looking out for supports, try and pick people who aren't very judgmental to who are not judgmental at all. You don't want somebody who's going to make you feel bad because you didn't change fast enough, because you didn't do this soon enough. Why did you wait till now? Yes, I'll help you, but, you know, because that just drags you down. And really, you know, for me, I know, you know, I need that non-judgmental stance. I need it from the other person, and I really, really need to try and do that for myself when I deal with other people, is try not to be judgmental. And for me, that is tough.
But at the same time, non-judgmental does not mean not challenging.
Oh, yeah.
Because somebody who's going to help you the most is going to challenge you the most.
Yes.
They're going to challenge you the most. They're the ones that are going to sit there and say, no, it's, you know, it's like, it's not all right that you're doing this. No, you can do a little bit more. And you know what? Now, at least you've got somebody who actually cares and who's actually trying to help you. Now it's up to you, which is the self-esteem, to go in and say, okay, I need to communicate with this person. And you need to actually have a communication between the two of you, what's going to be challenging and what's going to be too much. Because there is a point of time as to where there's too much, especially when you're dealing with these types of illnesses that we've been talking about, the autoimmune illnesses and so forth. Matter of fact, I talked to somebody today. You know, their caseworker, their care worker, their aide, you know, doesn't necessarily believe in the illness that she has. And at the same time, they're obviously in that profession for a reason, and that's to care for somebody. So what I advised for that person to do was to communicate, and to communicate with the fact that, look, I understand that you believe it's this, I believe it's this. Can we come together? And you talk about it as the language handshake. Yep. Can we come together so that I'm better? You know, I'm being helped here, as opposed to being isolated, as opposed to being worse than where it is that I started out for you helping me. You know, that doesn't make sense.
I want to get my needs met.
Yeah.
How do I get my needs met? Well, one, I have to reach out, but part of reaching out is effective communication. This is assertiveness. You know, assertive 101. Look at the very first words are effective communication. Assertive doesn't mean getting in somebody's face. Nope. Assertive does not mean pestering people. You know, sometimes we hear this word assertive, and I think we start thinking, you know I did it for a while, aggression. You know, assertive is kind of like aggression. It's like, no. Assertive is about communicating effectively to get your needs met, right. Which means when you need to speak up, you speak up. When you speak up, you speak clearly. You speak to the person who can actually help you. You know, that's part of being assertive. It's not
you know, sometimes it doesn't mean being the loudest voice in the conversation. Sometimes it means cutting the conversation off completely and saying, I'll talk with you at another time when you're more receptive and I'm more receptive to what it is that you're saying. That's assertiveness. You know, that's taking to a point as to where it's like, no, I'm not going to continue arguing and making this worse. I'm going to shut this down and then go and think about it and come back. And, you know, like you say, a lot of people utilize assertiveness as aggressiveness or the loudest voice. That's not true. Some of the most powerful people that I know in this world are the quietest people in the world. Those are the people that actually get things done. And it's not the ones that are screaming, yelling, and carrying on, or the ones that tell you everything that they can do. It's the ones that actually do what it is that they know that they can do, and they don't say a thing.
Yeah. It's also knowing your own limitations, so it's knowing when to ask for help. Yeah. You know, yes, we need to challenge ourselves. We need to learn, improve, share. So we have to kind of, you know, stretch goals. You have to try some things that you're not very good at, something that, you know, don't be afraid to fail. But at the same time, you have to know when you need to get help.
Well, negotiation, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I brought up the story that I was talking about this morning. You know, that person, you know, saw it one way. The other party saw it another way. And they were just going parallel with one another. You know, so what I advised was, hey, look, you got to give some in order to get some. You know, so instead of going parallel, now you're going like this, right? And at some point in time, you're going to come together. Now you might back off, you might go like this, but you keep coming back together. You know, I mean, it's almost like a magnet. You know, you want to have your conversation, your negotiation, to become a magnet to where you start coming together and you start having that language handshake that makes a difference. That's going to make it different not only for you, but it's going to make it different for the person that's trying to help you.
Yeah, and remember that a conversation means talking and listening.
Yes.
If you're talking at somebody, you're not having a conversation with them.
Right.
You know, and they're probably not listening anyway. But if you're having a conversation, it's give and take, just like the negotiation, but you have to talk for a while. And when you're listening, don't be thinking a whole lot about what you're going to say. Think about listening to what that person is saying.
Listen.
Actively listening.
Right.
And it's little things, but they do add up, and I get exhausted sometimes having to keep track of it.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, unfortunately, we had to live it.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago. It was 2 months ago, as to where a month and a half, everything just happened. And, and like I said, it felt like an avalanche that was coming through. We had to live it. And the reason why we were able to get through it was because we utilized these concepts on a daily basis. We don't just utilize them when there's something that's going wrong or when there's something that's not going 110% our way. We utilize them on a daily basis, so we were able to rely upon them when we were having a lot of adversity that was coming our way. And, so it's like to practice this is essential, to where you're practicing the power of turning the thought, realizing the power. You have that power to be able to turn the thought to make your life different than what it is that it was before. Just like I did when it came to, my depression and my full plate. I turned the thought. I turned the thought and said, it's not that I had a full plate, it's that I was shortchanging myself. And all of a sudden that plate looked half full, and I could take on a little bit more. And then when it comes to the freedom of acceptance, I think we've talked about that a great deal. But, the thing is, the reason why we talk about it a great deal, because we practice it a great deal on a day-to-day basis.
It is a foundation of Arisen Strength. We better be talking about it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but we utilize it throughout the day, and that's just the thing. And then, self-esteem. Hey, that's an everyday thing too. It's not the easiest thing. Sometimes, it's very difficult. Society can bash you down. Friends can bash you down. Family can bash you down. The person that you don't even know can bash you down. So it's very important, and we talk about in a number of other episodes, the negative bias that we live. The negative bias is the fact that we think that if we hear something negative or we say something negative, all we have to do is say one thing positive or here's one thing positive, and we're evened out and we're fine. We're balanced. No. It's not that way. It's not even 1 to 5. It's not even 1 to 10. It's over 10. Depending on who you talk to, it's 15 to 17. So every negative that you get, you have to have, let's say 10. You have to have over 10 positives just to be balanced, just to be 50-50. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. And people don't realize that, and you don't think about that. There's not many people who aren't going to therapy who's realizing that. But that is the fact. That is actually a study that has been made as to where people have actually sat down there and they realized that all of a sudden, no, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. It's not a 5-to-1 ratio. Man, it's over 10. And that's a big difference. So I wiped them out.
And I think, acceptance. Here's another acceptance. Using the pillars and foundations of Arisen Strength is not going to make your life sunshine and roses every single day. But what it does for us is it better prepares us to handle the challenges that come along. To look at those challenges and try and find the opportunity in the challenge, rather than sort of, be scared of the challenge, let it run over to a crisis. Don't let it spiral out of control. Meet it head on and decide, okay, what can I do here? What are my options? And, and if I can't figure it myself, then, I need to reach out and get some help. And, so it's not about making a perfect life for yourself. It's just like for those of you who've been through addiction, when you first quit, you think, oh, my life's going to be so much better now.
It's the hardest you ever had.
First of all, you're starting to feel.
Yeah.
You're starting to think.
Now you're thinking about a whole lot of different things.
And you have all this wreckage behind you and so now I've got all that, and now I have to still deal with what's going on right now. That first year of recovery especially, very, very tough. Very, very tough. And congratulations to anybody who gets through it. because it's just an amazing thing. But if you can come through that first year, or so, first long period of time, you can make that transition from abstinence, which is really, really important at the beginning, because you have so much going on in your life in the past, and with your body. You have to give your body a chance to heal. In the case of alcohol and drug addiction, you definitely have to give your body a chance to the organs,
and
just
the mindset,
everything has to start, getting back to normal, a new normal, whatever that means. But in the meantime, you got to just hold on and get a white knuckle a lot of times. But after that first year, you start noticing that, all those things that I never could have imagined not doing. I think like with drinking, it was Friday night with the guys at the bar. It was watching sports and drinking. It was just everything was centered around drinking. Going to the park with a 6-pack. It was going out on a boat with a case of beer. Everything was everything revolved around drinking. And it gets to the point sometimes where then it was just the drinking. It was like, wait, what do you want to do? Forget having plans. Let's just get a bunch of booze and booze it up. Then when you take that away, and you talked about that earlier, it leaves a big hole in your life, because everything was. And then it's like, what do I do now? There's boredom sets in.
Well, our Arisen Strength really, a lot of people probably wondering why it is that we talk about recovery a lot, is the fact that it's a lot about recovery. If it wasn't for our recovery, we wouldn't have found Arisen Strength. And not only that, but it's like I was talking to Angela Harding, of which is actually going to be one of our interviews for Lyme disease, not for the episode on Sunday, but going to be for the recap show. She is a holistic registered nurse, and we were sitting there and we were talking, and I said, you know what? I said, what Arisen Strength does is it allows you to be optimal for change, to be optimal for healing, to be optimal for happiness. And that's that. In other words, you're there. You're to the point as to where it's like, okay, I'm ready. Let's go. And then life is going to take you where it's going to take you, right? And but then it's never-ending cycle. I mean, it's never-ending. We talk about the threes that we do. Learn, improve, share. Support, empower, celebration, turn the thought, power of turning the thought, freedom of acceptance, self-esteem. These things continuously are going, and some of them are going at the same time. And the thing is that it allows you to be optimal for things to happen, so that it not only an avalanche, but you're also going to have windfalls, right? As to where things start coming your way, things start going in the direction that you really wanted to go in for your life. That's really what episode 19 was about, was so that we could show you that we utilize the concepts, the foundations, the pillars. We use these on a daily basis ourselves, and that's why we bring it to you, the audience, because we know that it works. And so we want to try to be helpful as best as we can. So that was really episode 19, and that's how it really works in reality. So now we got episode 20 coming up, of which you and I have been biting at the bit, trying to get this done. We've been really wanting to do a show on Lyme disease, but we were accepting a lot of the fact that we didn't know a whole lot about it. We accepted the fact that our production wasn't at the point as to where I was comfortable doing that show.
I knew it was going to be a big show for Arisen Strength. But we're here. We did it, didn't we?
Yeah, we do. And, Lyme is one, like I said, we weren't really intimate with the topic, with knowing a lot about Lyme. We knew about, tick bite, okay, but just very surface stuff. So we had to get into it and start learning. But then we got to learn about the communities. You have the people who are really, really suffering on a day-to-day basis, and that they're a very, very active, very, very really emotional community. I mean, they are under. Really under a lot of pressure. They're really ripe, actually, for Arisen Strength to kind of, help, get through the moment, get through the day, and trying to embrace the bright moments. Because on the other side, with the doctors and the CDC, there's some miscommunication, there's some lack of communication, there's actually a lack of understanding of really kind of what's going on. I mean, it's not a pretty subject to get into, and we took a chance going into it. I'm glad we did it because I learned a lot, and I'm looking forward to more challenges in the future.
Well, I mean, I know a lot about autoimmune because of my experiences with autoimmune illnesses. But the thing is that Lyme is a little bit different because here it is. Not only are you feeling the way that you're feeling because of the autoimmune, of which is a total, betrayal of your own body. It starts to attack your own defenses and such. And then all of a sudden, it's not bad enough that you feel this bad and that you're going through this, but then you're challenged by what's going on the outside, which is with the doctors, which is with the medical treatments, which is with the fact of, being acknowledged in the first place in the medical field. So, I can understand why they're at their point of, almost like a revolution, like we talk about a lot in a different way. But this particular thing sounds similar to a revolution, and they're doing the best that they can. And what we wanted to do with Arisen Strength, we wanted to be able to bring not only education of what Arisen Strength is about, but also support for those who are unfortunately dealing with the challenges of Lyme disease. And how we did that is the best way that I knew how was going to somebody who knew more about it than I did. And we went to World Lyme Day, which is with Terry and Rebecca. So that really worked out well to be able to bring the episode together to do our very best to bring that awareness that we wanted to do.
That's going to be this Sunday night, August 30th.
August 30th,
and,
yep.
It's I don't know. I think I'm all talked out. We haven't done a straight shot like this in a while, and I'm all talked out at the moment.
Well, it's really a great show. Not only is the episode for August 30th, but also our recap show, of which we're already ahead on that. Which is going to be on the 10th of September. We've got some great interviews. We got some great insight in regards to what Lyme disease is really about, and we're not only bringing awareness to the illness, but bringing the audience Arisen Strength, and that's really what we're trying to do. So, as far as anything else, I mean, I think we're pretty much we talked about everything in that sense. We're going to be starting Journey into the Light in the first week of September, I believe, or actually the second week of September, the 14th, I think it is. So we're going to be starting that again. And we've got a lot of announcements that we're going to be making that we're pretty excited about. So keep an eye on us and look out for what it is that we're doing, because we're not stopping here. We're doing even more than that. But for tonight, folks, I just want to say thank you for coming and watching the show. It's all about living life with purpose, and I hope you have a great night. We'll see you on Sunday night. Good night, everybody.
So what do you do now?
We'll let it run for a minute. Just a few seconds here. I'll separate the audio out, cut out this audio that we're hearing right now.
Your computer's in the picture.
Was that just happened, or was that there the whole time? Okay.
You just knocked it back.
Okay, so we could probably go ahead and. We need to a big clap here at the end. Okay. One clap here. Maybe I'm better. All right. Yeah, I think we can stop now.
Okay.